If you've ever seen this car, it's called the Bricklin SV-1. And this is its maker, Malcolm Bricklin, an American entrepreneur. Bricklin brought Subaru to America from Japan, as well as the Fiat X1-9 and the Yugo. In the 90s, Bricklin turned his attention toward the construction of environmentally friendly vehicles, creating something called the EV warrior. Today, Bricklin's turned his knowledge of fuel cell technology, combined with his expertise in manufacturing techniques and economics, to create a line of plug-in hybrid vehicles and a technology he says can be installed in your car right now, making it more gas efficient. I sat down to talk with this American entrepreneur at the premiere of a movie about him called The Entrepreneur, a movie made by his son. The event was hosted by 7x7 magazine. Ladies and gentlemen, the man that I'm sitting with, to some needs no introduction. When I was about 13 or 14 years old, I had a little Hot Wheel model of your Bricklin.
Oh, right. Yeah. Right.
So I've always died to own one of your cars. I never thought I had a chance to talk to you. Thank you very much.
You're totally welcome, but I'll tell you a story you're not going to be able to show.
Please. Okay.
Okay.
You want to turn this off?
I don't care.
Okay, cool.
You won't be able to show it.
All right.
I think you will be. One of the things I got most thrilling about when I built the car, I was a kid then too, I was in my 30s. We used to get letters from young men who were just able to drive, and they would say things like, "Mr. Bricklin, thank you so much for building your car. I never got laid until I got one."
It's that kind of car.
It was that kind of
really
car.
Great.
That made me feel like we did something good for the world.
I want to start off with something you and I were talking about after the movie. But first of all, how did The Entrepreneur come about as a movie? Just,
Well, as I said, when Jonathan came to New York, he came out of Bailout, and he had just done a movie of his own. And he was about to go spend some time editing and learning his profession much better. And I was on the way to Poland, and I said, you know what? Why don't you bring a little camera, let's film it, and let's see if people, first of all, will accept it, and if it doesn't become intrusive, maybe we can document what I'm doing. And anyhow, it turned out good for a lot of reasons. Not only because we thought there would be a film in it, but after each meeting, we would condense it and show it to the people who didn't come up to the meeting, and our people would see what really happened. They, over the other side, would have another report of what really happened, and it turned out to be a good business tool.
Now, the reason why we're talking, aside from the fact that you're a great entrepreneur, a great man, is that,
thank you.
You're very welcome. You have an incredible hybrid technology. And could you tell the viewers about it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, it's not my technology. It's a technology that's been around for a number of years, but nobody has latched onto it and made it commercial. But if you go to the internet now and look up hydrogen on demand, you'll see hundreds of people who are trying to sell you items off the internet for not very much money, anywhere from $50 or $100 to maybe $1,000, $1,500. And there are some companies that are putting on big trucks that cost $10,000 or $15,000 per hour. Nobody's catching on, and then there's a lot of people on the internet saying it's a scam. And these are reputable people saying they're a scam. And at first you would think it's the oil company trying to make sure it doesn't happen. But they're not. These are really people who are responsible. So when somebody tried to get me interested and I looked to see, I pushed it away. Because I felt, for some reason, it had a bad reputation, and that's the reason why I didn't go. After I started to pay some attention to it, just because I was being pushed, I realized the reason why it was called a scam is because sometimes it didn't work. And the reason it didn't work is because people had to install it themselves. And when they did, they forgot, or nobody told them, that there are sensors in the cars today that compensate when they get too much of something that was not normal. So here they were getting more oxygen than normal, which made it burn better, and the computers overcompensated and negated the advantage. So people, therefore, felt it was good.
For catalytic converters.
No, not that. Up here in the front part, what happens is it senses how much is getting in here and adjusts the engine so the fuel that they're using is optimized. But when something different comes in, it overcompensates. And here was something different being instituted, and nobody was paying attention to it. So sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. When it didn't, the word scam. And then they said we're running on water, which it isn't. It's running on the hydrogen that comes from water, which of course makes sense, but because of all the misinformation, it got a bad reputation. And that kept reputable people from being brave enough to jump into that pool.
Where are we now with it? Now that
we're at is the following. I spent the last year, and I have some of the most reputable people in the world working on it, and we've dealt with people now. We have hundreds of millions big trucks on it. And we have some really reputable people like Jet Propulsion Laboratory is about to get involved with the stamp of approval. And we were putting on some major trucking companies so we get millions of miles relatively fast. And soon I'm going to introduce it on manufactured cars that are in closed factories right now. Because the truth is, in America, because the truth is, it's not that we don't want to buy big cars anymore. We don't want to buy big cars that get 15 miles to the gallon. We want to buy big cars that get 30 miles to the gallon and more. And this will allow the big cars to be reproduced again and sold to the dealers and the factories to start making money and the UAW not have to be amputated.
Let me ask you, is it possible to take, say, the General Motors large cars that are not selling well and basically retool them with your technology?
We are exactly doing that, but we're not even having to retool them. We can take exactly what it is and just add what we're talking about. So it's a simple process that I can do in the field and do it for a car that's existing already, a used car. I can do it in about 2 hours, and it'll be about a 15-minute job on the factory line.
What would the unit cost for something like that be?
If it's going to be sold, it has to be done and remanufactured, put on in the dealership, it's about a $3,000 item. If I have to put it on in the factory, it's under $500.
Now, we're in a perfect storm, and I want to ask you a question. First of all, how, from your perspective, did the United States automobile company industry get where it is today?
First of all, you're right, 100%, we're in the perfect storm. We're in the perfect storm that demands change. So it's a good thing. Unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of pain for a lot of people, and that's not a good thing. They got into the position the following way. They are a closed group of people, a closed society that does not let outside influence them.
The automobile industry.
Right. And when they did not pay attention to the world when the world said we must be greener and we must be cleaner and we must get better miles. They thought because they were selling and therefore the people really wanted it, what they didn't understand is the people were buying it because that's what was available. But what they want is freedom from oil. And they didn't, instead of going and looking at everything, they closed off to what they were working on. And they continued to do what they were doing, which would take years to get around to, instead of finding something that could happen right now. Now, because of the mess they're in, there's an opportunity for somebody like myself to come in and say, I'll take your closed factory and I'll take the responsibility of doing it. After I do it, you either do it yourself or I'll continue to buy factories from you to continue to do it.
Let me ask you a question before you. Should we bail out the United States automobile industry?
We should keep them alive long enough to give an opportunity to change and become a symbol of who they were in the 1950s. So the answer is, if I had my wish, they would get their money.
15 billion enough?
No, not even close. Not even close is a joke. Because they have not figured out a plan to sell more cars. All they've done is they've said, we will figure a way to live leaner. We will figure a way to cut down the union. We will figure a way to pay our employees less. That's not a way to build a successful company. You'll have unhappy people building our cars, and you'll end up with shitty cars.
You said you got a call this morning about being the next car czar.
Yep.
Let's talk about that. I think you'd be great, but...
No, I wouldn't be great. No, because see, a car czar that is needed today is a man that has the discipline to cut. And my life is trying to grow. They don't mix. I couldn't stomach what you have to do in order to cut people down and give them less money and fire people. That's a job that just, my body wouldn't take it.
But if we get more bailout money, we wouldn't have to cut anybody, right?
No.
Theoretically.
But now they're going to cut. See, the problem is their plan is only to come down to be profitable at the lower number. My plan is how do you build up people who want to buy cars so we raise the number and make a lot of money.
I want to get this straight for my viewers because you're saying to me what some Congress and senators have said, that we're not going to give you bailout money if you're going to lay off people.
Well, they're going to lay off people. I don't care what they said. Their plan, if you look at what the General Motors and Chrysler said, they're going to close more factories. They're going to go negotiate with unions to give them more. They're going to pay. They're going to get rid of the airplanes. Now that sounds like, oh, what a good idea. It's not a good idea. You do not take the tools that executives need to be more productive and throw them away because you think you're saving money. You're going to just make it harder for people to operate.
Malcolm, how do people find out more about your technology?
Just go to the internet and look on hydrogen on demand, and you'll see why. Two things: why I got excited and why I got put off. You'll see both of those things there, and then say to yourself, if the good part is true, what could be better?
Quite lastly, too, some of the viewers out there, particularly some more conservative ones, make eye reports, and some of the producers at CNN ask openly, why should we save an organization like a Ford Motor Company? Could you look in the camera and let them know?
Let me tell you the following. To save a car company for the purpose of seeing them just spend more money and continue doing the same thing is not, of course, a smart thing to do. But to give the car companies an opportunity to take this money and rebuild themselves and become the force that they were in the world prior to now would be the most wonderful thing they can do. And now the question is, how do you put together the money they're being given and the opportunity they're given with some new ideas so they can talk about how to grow instead of how to talk about cut themselves down and amputate themselves.
Would you accept being on a panel, maybe the car czar's chair, something like that?
I would be happy to tell them anything they'd like to hear, but I would not want to be in any way responsible for dismantling the car company.
I think President-elect Obama is going to want to talk to you more.
Well, I want to tell you something. President-elect Obama is one of the best hopes I've ever seen for this country to change its ways. I was so proud of us as a country when we did what we did. And here's a man, and I believe, between you and Lambos, who will bring us up to his standard instead of being beaten down to the last guy.
I appreciate it. It's an honor. Thank you very much.
Meeting you.
Too as well.
And by the way, what I talked about Obama is the truth.
Yeah,
he is going to be our greatest challenges, therefore he's going to be our greatest president. And what he did for this country was he took color out of the game for fighting.
Right.
And that was important.
I said he was going to do that. You're going to split that after. So you're nuts. I said, no, watch.
Yeah, got it. So,